actually gonna take me home right now because I don't want to fuck.
Bro, yes.
Why? I thought we were having a good time. Like, we were having a good-ass time, just chilling with each other. We just got some snacks. Like, why can't we just go to the movies or something? I don't want to go home right now.
I drove a half an hour here. It's 2 in the morning. I'm not coming to hang out with you, bro. I want to fuck. What are you talking about?
Why are you talking to me like that?
Bro, we grown as fuck, bro. I'm not playing with shit. I don't got time for this shit. I'm taking you home. I'm being nice and respectful.
You think that's respectful? That's respectful.
It is hella respectful. I already took a honey pack and some more shit. Don't let me fuck. Bro, get the camera out my face, bro.
A honey pack? Guys.
Bro, get the fuck out, for real.
Let's talk about this scenario that's way too common in modern dating. A young man goes out with a woman. He makes his intentions clear from the start. This isn't some ambiguous hangout. It's not, let's be friends. He's not there to just vibe. He's up front. He wants intimacy. Not in a manipulative way, not in a coercive way, but in a transparent, adult, I'm interested in you romantically and sexually way. And what happens? She agrees to the meetup. She goes along with the energy. She flirts. She dresses up, maybe even initiates physical contact. But then, once she's enjoyed the attention, the meal, the time, and now that things are moving toward that expected conclusion, suddenly the rules change. Now she wants to just watch a movie. Now she wants to just hang out. She wants to renegotiate the terms after she's already benefited from the setup. And when the man walks away, when he respectfully ends the interaction because he sees that she's not aligned with the initial agreement, suddenly he's the bad guy. She calls him immature. She says, he only wanted one thing. She says she doesn't owe him sex. And guess what? She's absolutely right. She doesn't owe him sex. But here's the part that modern women often overlook in their entitlement-fueled logic. He doesn't owe her time. He doesn't owe her validation. He doesn't owe her attention, emotional investment, or the rest of his night. Just like she has the right to say no, he has the right to say, then I'm leaving. That's called mutual respect. That's called boundaries. Now let's be real about why this kind of situation is dangerous. For men and women. When a woman agrees to meet up with a man under clearly romantic or sexual expectations, and then pretends halfway through that it was all just innocent fun, it creates a gray area that has ruined countless lives. That's where miscommunication, frustration, and even legal danger live. Because too many men don't have the discipline or the awareness to walk away the way this guy did. Too many get angry, confused, or emotionally manipulated into pushing boundaries. And then you have messy headlines, legal consequences, or worse, all because someone wanted to play games with intention. That's why this man made the right move. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He didn't try to manipulate her. He didn't press the issue. He saw the dynamic shift, realized the agreement had been rewritten without his consent, and he removed himself from the situation. That is emotional discipline. That is high-value behavior. That is protecting himself from both legal vulnerability and wasted energy. Women love to say, well, you should want to get to know me first. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Men are tired of investing in women who have no intention of reciprocating. Because the game is rigged in her favor. She gets a free date. She gets to feel desired. She gets entertainment, conversation, validation, and then walks away with no investment of her own. But the man? He wasted his time. He drove, paid, waited, planned, for nothing. Not because she rejected him, but because she misrepresented what the night was about. And that's the real issue. It's not that the woman said no. It's that she said yes to a setup she never intended to follow through on. It's about deception, not denial. It's about women leveraging their sexuality to extract resources and attention without delivering honesty. That's what a lot of women today don't want to be held accountable for. They want the benefits of male desire, the date, the compliments, the gifts, the nights out, without any responsibility to clarify their own intentions. This is why red pill men emphasize directness and accountability. If a woman isn't interested in intimacy, that's her right. But if that's the case, she should make that clear before the man makes any investment. Don't bait him with suggestive behavior or vague promises and then flip the script when it's convenient. That's manipulative. That's exploitative. And that's why men are checking out of the dating scene entirely. This young man deserves respect, not ridicule. He didn't overreact. He responded exactly how a man should when he realizes he's being used. He walks. Men, learn from this. You don't need to argue. You don't need to justify your intentions. If she's not on the same page, just exit the situation with dignity. And don't let her shaming tactics work on you. Because when she says, you only wanted one thing, what she's really saying is, I thought I could get your attention and effort without giving you what you wanted in return. And when you walk away, you've just reminded her that her manipulation has an expiration date. In the end, everyone has the right to their standards, but nobody has the right to waste someone else's time while pretending to play by the same rules. So to the men out there, stay sharp, stay grounded, and most of all, stay in control. You don't owe anyone your presence if they're not meeting your terms. That's not toxic. That's self-respect.
You're a man struggling to get matches or go on first dates because you forget that you want the date more than she does. You have fewer options than she does. You want marriage and kids more than she does. You don't get to cut corners. You don't get to be cheap. You have to put in more effort. Not in the sense that you need to text her more or emotionally dump on her, but in the sense that you need to work on yourself. You need to put in a little extra effort into planning the date. You need to be an active listener. You need to ask her questions. You need to take an interest in her life. I'm starting a support group for men who aren't getting laid. And no, this is not a group for incels, it's a group for men who view women as people. So if you're a man ready to do the work and take advice from a woman, please follow along and stay up to date on when we launch.
Let's break this down. We've got a woman in this video talking about what men need to do in order to deserve a woman. And she runs through the usual list of modern female demands. Men need to do the work on themselves. They need to learn how to plan dates. They need to be emotionally stable and never vent or open up too soon. They need to ask the right questions. They need to listen. They need to take interest in her goals, her career, her feelings, her life. Oh, and of course, if they don't do all that perfectly, they're incels who don't see women as people. Let me translate that entire rant into what she's really saying. I want a man to behave like a therapist, a mind reader, a planner, a leader, a wallet, a sponge for my emotions. And I want to give him nothing back unless I feel like it. She's parroting all the things that the so-called nice guys, the men who treat women with respect, put effort into dating, plan the dates, compliment her, listen to her, have already been doing for years. And what has it gotten them? Ghosted, blocked, friend-zoned. Because the truth is, none of this advice actually works unless she already finds you attractive. Let's cut through the nonsense. Women don't reject men because they didn't listen well enough or because they didn't ask the right questions. They reject men because they weren't turned on by them. Period. You can be the most emotionally intelligent, patient, soft-spoken listener in the world. But if you don't spark her hypergamy, none of that matters. In fact, the more emotionally open, available, and attentive you are too soon in the dating process, the more she loses attraction. That's why guys who do all the work end up getting left on red. Because when a woman says, I want a man who listens, what she really means is, I want a man I'm already attracted to who also listens. But if you're not attractive to her, you listening just makes you her emotional crutch until she meets the guy she really wants. And let's talk about her throwing out the term incels. It's become a lazy label for any man who doesn't buy into female double standards. You challenge her worldview? You don't fall in line and worship her for existing? You must hate women. Number. The truth is, men are just waking up to the game. They've seen the pattern. The guy who plans the dates, asks the questions, makes her feel safe, and puts her first. He gets played. The guy who doesn't return texts, who's emotionally distant, who's got options, he's the one she's chasing. So let's stop pretending like this is about doing the work. Men have done the work. They've gone to therapy, they've read the books, they've learned to communicate. And guess what? Women still treat them like options, while rewarding the toxic men with their attention, affection, and even their loyalty. You ever notice how a woman can be crying over a man who treats her like dirt, while ignoring the guy who's always been there for her? That's not about emotional intelligence. That's about female nature. Women chase emotional highs. They're drawn to mystery, challenge, dominance, and status. You know what that doesn't look like? A guy sitting across from her on the first date saying, "How did that make you feel?" The game is not fair. And the sooner men stop trying to play it by her rules, the better off they'll be. Because this whole narrative that men need to perform to even be seen as worthy, that they need to jump through hoops to be viewed as human, is dehumanizing in itself. She wants to talk about how incels don't see women as people. Let's talk about how modern women don't see men as people. They see men as providers, as emotional support animals, as walking paychecks, as entertainment. And the second a man fails to meet her needs perfectly, trash, incel, toxic masculinity. Men, the red pill is about seeing reality for what it is, not what you're told it should be. And the reality is this: a woman who wants you will make it easy for you. She won't need you to pass some 10-point personality inspection checklist. She won't be testing your emotional maturity like it's a job interview. She'll be interested because she's attracted, and all those other things? They'll come naturally. So no, don't waste your time doing the work just to earn the bare minimum of her attention. Work on yourself for you. Get in shape, build your value, raise your standards. Not so some woman can validate you, but so you can walk away when she tries to play games. Because the truth is, most women don't want to fix broken men, and they sure don't reward healed ones. They reward chaos. They reward the guy who keeps them guessing. They reward the man who doesn't need their approval. So next time you hear a woman tell you what men need to do, just remember, the nice guys already did it, and she still curved them. So stop chasing her approval, and start living for your own. That's the red pill. That's reality, and that's the end of the debate.
I feel like nice guys are actually really controlling, and I need somebody to expand on that.
You rang? Nice guys are incredibly controlling, and the real reason why is horrifying. Also, I'm going to tag the original creator in the comments below. Make sure to watch their whole video. Their content in general is great. But let's talk about why nice guys are controlling. So nice guys base their entire personality on how nice they are, particularly to women. But they also often have a deep sense of entitlement. So they have to figure out ways that they can take out that entitlement and whatever anger comes up for them, which it will, in ways that they don't feel like cancels out that they're nice guys. And the way they do that is through control. They need it to be your fault if they do something terrible. They will give you rules or what they call boundaries, and if you cross them, then they can be mean to you. Often these rules will be really ambiguous because that creates the most opportunities for them to be mean to you. For example, they could say, "I don't like you, chatting it up with other men." But what about your coworkers? What about if you're out and about and someone talks to you and it's polite to engage? They want there to be so much gray. The more gray there is, the more opportunities they have to unleash their anger. They want to surround you with so many rules and restrictions and boundaries that it becomes impossible for you to function without crossing or breaking one of them. And then when they do get mad, their feelings are, "Why did you make me do that? I told you how I felt. You crossed the line. This is your fault." And they will feel absolutely no guilt, and their nice guy image is completely intact. They are nice guys. You were just outrageous. You were so outrageous. Any person would have reacted that way. And it's horrific because a lot of times they can convince the people that they're with that they're right. I remember when I was talking to my therapist about my worst ex ever, who would do terrible things and we would be fighting all the time, and I just didn't understand. And I remember her looking at me and saying, "It's not that you did something wrong and so he got angry with you. It's that he was angry and so he picked something that you did wrong." They have bad feelings. They have anger. They have resentment. They have entitlement. And those feelings bubble and fester within them.
and they need to get them out at you, but they have to have a reason. And by setting all of this control around you and your life, it's easy to find one. That is why nice guys love control. Ugh.
Let's break this down. The entire premise of this woman's argument is built on emotional manipulation and projection. She's not describing a toxic man. She's describing a man who dares to have standards, draw lines, and enforce them. But when a man does that today, he's suddenly controlling. He's toxic. He's a nice guy with a dark side. Meanwhile, women do the exact same thing, and they get applauded for having self-respect and knowing their worth. This double standard is at the heart of the problem. She starts by saying that nice guys are incredibly controlling, then jumps straight into character assassination, claiming that men who set boundaries are just angry, entitled, emotionally repressed powder kegs waiting to blow. And how do they supposedly blow up? By doing the unforgivable crime of expecting basic respect in return for their emotional investment. Think about that. She says nice guys give you rules, which they call boundaries, so that if you break them, they can be mean to you. But let's flip that. What if we said this? A woman tells her man she doesn't want him texting his ex. If he does it anyway, she gets upset. She enforces a consequence. Is she mean? Or is she enforcing her boundary? Exactly. Society says she's strong and empowered. But if a man tells a woman, hey, I don't want to date someone who's constantly flirting with other guys at bars or spending all night out with male friends, he's suddenly controlling. She turns his boundaries into an attack and paints him as insecure, when in reality, he's just making it clear what he will or won't tolerate in a relationship. The truth is, boundaries are only vilified when men set them. Then she uses the word ambiguous, saying men purposely keep their boundaries unclear to create gray areas to trap women. That's a projection. What she's describing is gaslighting. And ironically, it's a tool that women often use when they want the freedom to act recklessly while avoiding accountability. Think about how many times a man has been told, it's just a friend, or why are you so jealous? Even after clear signs of emotional infidelity or disrespect. When men set boundaries, like not tolerating disrespect, not accepting shady behavior with male friends, or expecting reciprocity, they're not trying to control a woman. They're trying to protect their peace. Because modern dating has become a minefield where men who don't enforce standards get walked all over, and men who do enforce them get demonized. She continues by saying, these men want to surround you with so many rules and restrictions that it becomes impossible for the woman to function. No. What's actually happening is, a woman doesn't want to change her behavior for a man who finally respects himself. That's what this is really about. Here's the dirty truth she's trying to distract from. Women today are told to keep their options open, always have backup attention sources, and prioritize their own happiness, no matter how it impacts their man. So when that man pushes back, when he says no more, it threatens the illusion of female innocence and moral superiority. And rather than acknowledge that, they label him controlling. She even says that when the man gets mad, he thinks, you made me do this. And look, nobody's condoning rage or emotional abuse here. But here's the trap. Anytime a man reacts to being disrespected, whether it's calmly walking away or saying, this isn't going to work for me, women will claim it's abusive. The goal here is to make men afraid to speak up for themselves, to gaslight them into silence. Because if the man walks, the attention, resources, emotional labor, that's gone. And she knows it. She then tells this sob story about her therapist saying her ex was just angry, and so he found something she did wrong to justify it. Let's be real. There are bad actors on both sides. But if you're constantly fighting in a relationship, it's not just because of one partner's repressed entitlement. It's probably because there's a mismatch in values, a lack of accountability, or you're violating each other's expectations. Period. And here's the final kicker. She's trying to associate the very concept of male boundaries with malicious intent. So let's clarify something for the men listening. A boundary is not a rule you give someone else. It's a standard you set for yourself. It's saying, if you behave this way, I will leave. That's not control. That's self-respect. That's sovereignty. When a man sets boundaries, he's protecting his time, energy, emotional well-being, and future. And when he walks away from a woman who crosses them, he's not punishing her. He's simply refusing to play games. But modern culture doesn't want men to have that kind of power. They want men to be endlessly forgiving, endlessly patient, and always playing defense. They want men to absorb disrespect and stay silent because silence makes them easy to manipulate. So to every man watching, don't fall for the trap. They want you to believe that setting boundaries is abusive. They want you to think that enforcing consequences makes you a monster. They want you to feel guilty for walking away from dysfunction. But the truth is, the more they shame male boundaries, the more you know how necessary they are. Because a man without boundaries is a man without value in the dating market. Women may not say it out loud, but they don't respect men who allow themselves to be used, stepped on, and played. So be kind, be respectful, but be unapologetically clear about what you will and won't tolerate. If that makes you the villain in someone else's story, so be it. Because at the end of the day, your peace matters more than anyone else's approval.
The function of misogyny could be men trying to collectively lower women's self-esteem so they stand a chance. We see an analog of this within relationships. So low mate value men within relationships choose what's called a cost-inflicting mate retention strategy, where they literally try and lower their partner's self-esteem so that they are less inclined to leave them. This collective group misogyny is like that strategy except from outside relationships. Incels do this all the time. They say things like, oh, you're going to hit the wall when you're over 30, your mate value will run out.
So these guys, they feel they can't provide value themselves to these women, so instead of adding benefits to her life and providing value, they inflict cost on her to avoid her from running off with these other potentially high status or higher status men that she's hanging out with.
Precisely. Lower mate value men choose the cost infliction strategy. There's been a lot of research in the last number of years that show this trend, that misogyny is most pronounced in low mate value men and men who don't define themselves as incel subculture but find themselves with unwanted celibacy. That is a big predictor of misogyny.
Let's break this down. There's a growing chorus of so-called beta males, often men who are desperately trying to stay in the good graces of women, who love to critique red-pilled men by saying things like, "You're just bitter, you're incel, you're using toxic mate retention strategies like cost infliction to keep women in line." What they're really doing is regurgitating academic terms they don't fully understand to virtue signal and maintain some fantasy that being agreeable gets them laid. Now, let's talk about this so-called cost infliction strategy. It's a term from evolutionary psychology that describes when a partner tries to discourage cheating or leaving by increasing the cost of exit, reminding someone that there are consequences to their choices. And yes, that can be toxic if it comes from a place of control or fear. But red-pilled men aren't inventing consequences. They're simply stating facts. If a man says, "You're not going to have the same leverage in the dating market at 35 as you did at 23, that's not abuse. That's math. That's reality. That's biology. And the only reason it's being labeled as cost infliction is because women and their male defenders don't like the mirror being held up to a system they've gamed for years. Meanwhile, women are out here shaming men for not stepping up to the plate after those women have aged out of the sexual marketplace. They'll say things like, "Real men date single moms," "You're intimidated by a strong woman," or "You must hate women if you don't want to date someone your own age." How is that not cost infliction? See, it's only a strategy when a man does it. When a woman does it, it's called empowerment, maturity, or speaking her truth. But let's get real. When a woman hits 32, 35, 40, and starts looking around saying, "Where are all the good men?" what she's really doing is trying to emotionally manipulate men into absorbing the consequences of her choices. And you'll notice these beta males start echoing her shaming language, hoping to get a few scraps of approval in return. Let me be clear. Red-pilled men aren't trying to control women. We're just refusing to play along with a rigged game. We're not buying into this narrative that a woman's sexual market value is eternal, that choices don't have consequences, or that men should be guilted into making up for someone else's wasted prime. And here's the kicker. The same men who cry about incels using cost infliction are totally silent when women are doing it. They say, "Don't tell her she's hitting the wall, it's misogyny. But they have no problem when women are telling men they're losers if they don't want to raise another man's child or marry someone past her fertility window. That's not healthy love. That's not equality. That's leverage warfare disguised as morality. Red-pilled men aren't angry at women. They're just done being lied to. They're done being told that they're somehow broken for not wanting to settle for a deal that gets worse with time while being told they should be grateful for it. And they're especially done with men, yes, other men, trying to score points by policing their honesty. So next time someone throws around terms like cost infliction or tries to pathologize a man for speaking uncomfortable truths, remember, the only reason truth feels like a threat is because someone has been benefiting from the lie. And red-pilled men? We've stopped apologizing for seeing the game for what it is.